Okay, Psalm 87 is profound. On the level of what we talked about in Isaiah 19, it parallels Isaiah 19 quite a bit in some of the promises toward the end of that chapter. It's huge. The implications here are very, very large. This is one of one of those top heavy hitting chapters when it comes to the Great Commission and God's heart for the nations. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. Really, it's the sons of Korah. And it is, again, the exact historical setting is not totally certain. We don't know the exact timing. That's why I've kind of grouped these together into the sort of around the time of Isaiah and Micah, type of Psalms. Most commentators suggest that it's written during the reign of Hezekiah, but after the defeat of Sennacherib's army, which we can read about in Isaiah 37. But it's largely because it's got so many similarities with other writings of that specific time period with Micah and Isaiah and Hezekiah and that kind of thing. So here, the sons of Korah describe the reconciliation and rebirth of Jewish and Gentile family lineage, unified through Jerusalem, which will be the capital city of the Messianic age. The promise here is huge. Starting in verse 1. On the holy mountain stands the city he founded. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the dwelling places of Jacob. Glorious things of you are spoken, O city of God. This first 3 verses is just proclaiming God's love for Jerusalem. And you can imagine if you were Hezekiah and you had just seen all of Assyria's armies who had successfully invaded all the dwelling places of Jacob. That's the northern kingdom of Israel. They've already invaded the northern kingdom and they come to Jerusalem and boom, they're struck down by an angel of the Lord. And so you can imagine, on your holy mountain stands the city that God founded, that the Lord loves the gates of Zion more than the dwelling places of Jacob. That's because obviously you would think, since the dwelling places of Jacob had fallen, being the northern kingdom, then glorious things of you are spoken, O city of God. And there are glorious promises that were spoken in that day for Jerusalem. Think about Isaiah chapter 2. When Isaiah and Micah chapter 4, these are parallel prophecies, word for word, that say it will come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the house of the Lord, being the mountain of Zion in Jerusalem, shall be established as the highest of mountains. It goes on to describe the governmental center of the Messianic age being founded in Jerusalem and the Lord ruling the nations from Jerusalem. So, of course, glorious things have been spoken about the final glory of Jerusalem in the Messianic age, but these promises were given during Hezekiah's generation. All right, verses 4 through 6. Among those who know me, I mention Rahab and Babylon. Behold, Philistia, Tyre, and Cush. Cush is modern-day Ethiopia. It was northeastern Africa, near Egypt at the time. This one was born there, they say, and of Zion it shall be said, this one and that one were born in her. For the Most High himself will establish her. The Lord records, as he registers the peoples, this one was born there. And so singers and dancers alike say, all my springs are in you. So what is going on with this mention of Rahab and Babylon and so forth? Well, now we've changed to the first person where he says, among those who know me, I mention. God names kingdoms and city-states that are ultimately redeemed in their relationship to God. Isaiah had just recently labeled Egypt as Rahab. So Rahab became this prophetic name for Egypt that Isaiah used several times. And he prophesied that specific reconciliation in Isaiah 19. In Isaiah 19, he says, in that day, Israel will be third with Egypt and Assyria. All of them will be a blessing in the midst of the earth. And he goes on to say, blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my people. It starts to include this. There's this expansion of the covenant throughout the surrounding nations, even nations that were formerly adversarial. Suddenly, there's this covenant blessing that extends to them. And that's exactly what's happening here. It's a final reconciliation at the end of the age. That is the hope of all reconciliation. It is remarkable to even think of the enmity that used to exist between Assyria and Israel, or Babylon and Israel in this case. And so he says Egypt and Babylon and Philistia. Now, Philistia is Gaza today. Can you believe that? And Tyre and Cush, which is modern day Ethiopia. They all say they've got their own family lineages of, well, that one was born in Babylon, and that one was born, you could say that one was born in Turkey, and that one was born in Iraq, and this one was born in Israel, and they're Palestinian, and they're Israeli. God's going to say all of this family lineage division is going to be reset, and they're all going to find their roots in Zion. This one and that one, all of them, all of these who claim these lineages are going to be born in Zion. It's a reset. And one of the reasons for that is because these family divisions are so part of the root of the conflicts that we have, going back to Isaac and Isaac blessing his sons Jacob and Esau, and Abraham and Lot, and many other divisions that happened over the generations that have produced so many conflicts throughout history. And here, as the Messiah comes to glorify Jerusalem and to set up his government and establish the Messianic age, he says, all these family lineages get a reset. It's like the most comprehensive family reconciliation that you can possibly imagine. It's remarkable. What's interesting is in Isaiah 24, Isaiah is talking about God's final judgment on the earth, that God's final judgment as the Messiah comes is so devastating that the earth in its old form can never rise again. It's so comprehensive that you can't bring back the old structures. The old lineages are broken. The old government systems, like the destruction is so comprehensive, but it's on purpose. It's to do away with what have been wicked systems, divisive systems of betrayal and just enmity that these families have had. And he says, we're going to do away with it to the degree that it can't come back. And this is why, because we're going to have this beautiful family reset and reconciliation in the Messianic age. And then we have verse 6, God will record the mortal survivors of the tribulation who were neither resurrected with the righteous nor among the Antichrist's wicked armies. So to some degree, their family lineages are what get reset. And this is what we see in Isaiah chapter 4. Isaiah saw this himself. He said, all those who are left in Zion, all those who remain in Jerusalem will be called holy. Oh, everyone who has been recorded for life in Jerusalem. And then, of course, Isaiah 4 goes on to describe this beautiful celebration as the Messianic age begins and gets underway. And here's the point is, it is this extension of the covenants to the nations that is so profound. That it's not just God's restoration of Israel, but it's his redemption of all these places where there has been enmity, where there have been battles, where people have sought other gods. And God says, no, we're all going to bring this back to one family. And what does that sound like? Does that kind of sound like Paul in Galatians 3, where Paul says, Paul's thinking this way. He says, there's neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, nor male nor female, or all of that. When he says, when it comes to our inheritance in the end, God's going to reunify all of this together, and we're all going to get equal inheritance. It's amazing. Could it have been, I had never have heard anybody say that Paul in Galatians 3 could have been thinking of this psalm, which would have been written, hundreds of years earlier. I think that's so cool. And so here, that's what makes verse 7 so awesome, is that the nations come with dancing and singing to say, all my fountains, we have this full satisfaction of all of our desires have been fully met in the presence of God in his Messianic age. How amazing is that, to imagine the nations coming and doing that? I mean, okay, so I've included some cross references. In Psalm 47, listen to what is said in Psalm 47. Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. This is as the Messianic King is being inaugurated, his rule is being inaugurated in the Messianic age at the end. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with a psalm. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his throne in Jerusalem. I'm adding in Jerusalem. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. They're gathering together. He's saying the new princes, the new leadership that Jesus puts in place of all the Gentile nations assemble just like the people of Abraham. How amazing is that? For the shields of the earth all belong to God. He is highly exalted. And then, of course, Isaiah 12. Isaiah 12 is the other obvious reference that talks about with joy you will draw from the wells of salvation, and you will say in that day, sing praises to God, to the ends of the earth. It says he has done gloriously, and let this be made known to the ends of the earth. It's amazing. This is just one of the most profound descriptions of the depth of reconciliation that is in the heart of God for the nations. Because these are nations that are not kind to each other. They're definitely not kind to God. But God says, hey, we don't have to worry about it. We're going to reunify all of this together. It's so amazing. So amazing. I do want to mention, just as I end, and I do mention this in the notes, that the reference to Babylon can seem a little bit like a contradiction, because Isaiah and Jeremiah and other prophets say Babylon is going to be completely desolated forever. And there's a little bit of a difference between Babylon as a city and Babylon as a nation or a kingdom. And sometimes those distinctions can be hard to draw, but it certainly could be that the capital city of Babylon, whatever that representative city is, the city is left desolate, but the people who may have been victims of what that city did, the broader kingdom can be redeemed. And it would be having to probably, deal with the wicked leadership of the city is what makes the restoration of the rest of that nation possible. So that's remarkable. Okay, amen.